And now she's going to have to deal with it. And as she likes to say, she fucked around and she's about to find out. Yeah, I agree. TikTok sucks. I agree. But, you know, to me, knowingly trying to take somebody's life at your own hands, I will never understand that. Who is she talking to in my latest post? I don't know. It was just part of her live. I'm not sure if she was, talking to somebody in particular. Exactly. TikTok sucks, you know, and let me put it this way. This is how the law works. When I was going through that whole thing with Thomas, okay, and I was talking to my police department, you know, and they were like, well, you know, there's not much we could do because he doesn't have an address where we could serve him with anything. And I said, so if he comes to my house, I can protect myself, right? And he said, yes, if he comes into your house, you can protect yourself. I said, so if he pulls in my driveway, I can't protect myself. And he said, no, because you're not in imminent danger. And I said, well, what if I go outside and he comes after me? And he says, well, you never want to put yourself into that position. You know, if he were to come to your house, you stay in the house and you call the police. And I said, so if I go out there and he starts threatening me and I pew him, I'm going to be the one who gets in trouble? And he said, unless it's imminent danger and you're protecting yourself. So, I mean, but, right. But, and that's the thing that's what I'm trying to say. She can't say that because from what I heard with the police report, he was in a car and he was hit in the back, which means he was not going towards her. He was not engaging with her. So, you know, she can't use that. She can't use that as an excuse. I think it was on the 22nd of September. Yes, Guardians of Valor 3 times. 3 times. We're talking about FWA right now. From what I heard, Mayor, is that he is in stable condition. And I heard somebody say that he is not in a coma anymore. Her live that she had today, though, is on Scam Slam's page. You can skip through, literally, you can skip through the first 25 minutes or so because all she's doing is begging. She's connected to him because he is the father of one of her daughters. Yeah, Breezy, I don't think she's going to be going there. Considering I don't think she can leave her house. So, so she's in some trouble. But I'll tell you what, she's going to be on here every day for hours and hours because she is under house arrest. She can't go anywhere and she needs money. So she is going to be on here all the time. I have it on my page, Marlisa. I posted them. Oh, there's weapon charges. Yep, she said she needs her TikTok paycheck. Yep. People on house arrest can leave the house to go to work. Okay. But I don't even know if she works. I mean, I know she does some door dashing. Quite honestly, if somebody was doing DoorDash and pulled up with me and they had an ankle bracelet on, I'd be a little concerned. But October 6th, I'm going to look into that because Dora actually messaged me and said that Michigan streams the court proceedings. So I'm going to do a little research into that. And if that's the case, I will stream it on, if I can legally do it, I will stream it on October 6th. So, yes. If you look at one of my posts, the county's listed on there. It was weird though. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch her whole live because she said some stuff that didn't make sense. It was like she made it sound like that her daughter had some problems down in Georgia when they were on there, but then it sounded like this stemmed from something in Georgia, but then this happened in Detroit. It was very weird. You got to hear the whole thing. But, you know, I'm not. Everybody is different. I understand that. I am not a violent person. I don't believe in taking the law in your own hands. I do believe that sometimes the Justice Department does drop the ball. I do agree 100% that the police do drop the ball, but that doesn't mean you take the law in your own hands. Well, yeah, her car's in impound because it got towed, I'm sure, for evidence. And now she's got to pay to get it out. Of course. I'm surprised she can get it out this early. I don't know. Let me see if I can bring this stuff up. I don't know if you're going to be able to read it. I know you can't read the chat right now, but her name was put out there already. Her full name is all over the place. I know you can't read some of this stuff. So yeah, she's definitely in some trouble. I'll tell you that. She's definitely in some trouble. And again, the things that I just don't understand is, and again, people are all different, but we talk about how do Sean's mods still mod for him. I don't know how people will still go into her lives, how people still mod for her, and people will still send her money, which is crazy. I agree, Sarah, 100%. There was no immediate threat. So, exactly. And again, I don't even know how many kids she had or she has. I have no clue. I don't know how old her kids are. I mean, she's talked about kids. She's talked about, it sounds like she's got minor kids because she was talking about buying them backpacks and all that. Did she not think about those kids in that point? You know, what's going to happen to my young kids that are living with me? Yeah, I agree, Megs. And that's the thing. Yeah, they said that there was somebody in the car with her. If I'm not mistaken, she said that, and this is from what somebody said, and I don't remember if it was her or somebody else because I was getting a lot of information in today. It sounded as if her husband was with her and there was a child, but it didn't say. There was no mention of the child and like the age. So I don't really know. I don't really know anything about that. I don't know, Breeze. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't see that whole live where it was read today. We are just finishing up talking about FWA. I was streaming Sean a little earlier. I agree, Megs. And any lawyer will say, do not talk to anybody about this. Do not talk to anybody about it. Do not talk about this. Yeah, I agree, Glenn. It's a very, again, when people like FWA do shit like this, okay, you don't necessarily feel bad for her because she decided to do this. What you feel bad for are the people that are directly related to her. So, you got young kids, I don't know how old they are. I know she's married. Those are the people. Those are the people now that have to deal with this. You know? Those are the people that, again, I don't know how old her kids are, if they're school age, which it sounds like at least one is. I mean, that kid's going to have to go to school now. And I mean, this was on the local news up there in Detroit. you know? And now these kids have to go to school. And you know how kids are. Kids are going to talk about it. And kids are going to say stuff to her kids. And you know, she put this, she did this, she caused this. That's who I feel bad for. Yeah, the only popular she's going to be getting soon are honey buns. And maybe some Roman noodle. Yeah, probably. Yeah, temporary insanity, but yeah, she's not. About Sean. Dan Bobby will be in here, and there's going to be a lot of information put out. A lot of information, a lot of lies that he has been saying his entire time on social media. And, you know, after tomorrow night's live, if he still has anybody that goes into his lives, I'll tell you. I'll be amazed. Miscellaneous is fake, yeah. HB told us that ChatGPT wrote it for her. Is that true? Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody do that? That's not cool. That's terrible. That's terrible. Well, you know, based on, you know, what I've seen that's legit with the police reports and all that stuff, we'll base it on that, you know. We won't base it on, you know, what that other person said. That's just not right. That is not right. Wow. Man, I wouldn't make it a day over there, Miscellaneous. That's crazy. Exactly, KK. What is the point of embellishing something, right? I mean, she did something horrible. I mean, why? Oh, that's terrible. Wow. So I'll tell you, as soon as I'm off here, I'm going to take off that video. Because I posted a video with HB talking about what happened. I'm going to take that right off. Scam, are you in here? Is it Scam Slam 411? Yep. Go to Scam Slam 411, guys, and check out FWA's live from today. And then I have the charges, all that stuff on my page. Yep, on YouTube. Scam Slam 411. Yeah, I watched part of it. But, you know, I've had a real problem with FWA ever since she allowed a certain people from, and I hate to say sides, but this side of TikTok go over onto her platform and just start going after people. I've had a real problem with it. Real problem. Especially because a lot of the information that these people would put out over there was just flat out lies. So, you know, I've been following her for a while because of this bullshit. And, you know, when I heard about this today, you know, it's like karma. It's karma, but it's a karma that she created for herself. And you know what? If you're going to do the crime, get ready to do the time. And that's what's going to happen. There's no way she's going to get off. I mean, there's no way. Like, I could see her copping to some lesser charges in order to make an agreement with the prosecution, but she's gonna have some time, definitely. FWA, free spirit. Yes, Darcy, exactly. Hey, Dora. Right, exactly, Mimi. I mean, she tried weaving that little bit in here that, you know, she snapped because somebody doxed her kids or something. I don't even know who did that. I mean, I know, you know, I had heard, you know, back, what was it, 3 weeks ago or something about Mikey and her son or something. I don't even know. I don't know about any doxing of any of the other of her other kids, but how you can attribute that to you being, you know, you snapping and then this happening, please. This has nothing to do with TikTok. Please. Yeah, I'd like to see her try to use that defense. Because I'll tell you what, from the point that her kids were supposedly doxed, and again, I don't know anything about that because I don't even know who her kids are. I never saw anything. From that point on to when this happened, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's been fine on TikTok. I mean, she's been fine on TikTok. So you can't say that you snapped because of that when it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago and you've been fine. Yeah, I agree, Breezy. I agree. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either, Megs. I think it's going to be a hard one to prove. Nah, it wasn't. I agree. TikTok sucks. Exactly, TT. Yep. Yep, it's always somebody, and that was today. She was making up every excuse except for herself. And it's like she couldn't even say exactly what she did, but she did without saying it. You know what I mean? You refer to something comes out of a pew as shrapnel. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. And she would even bring that up on social media. I don't get it. I mean, she didn't even have to bring it up. She could have just said, yeah, well, I took some time off. Yep, Breezy, go ahead and do it, because that's what you say. You could say you snapped. And that's why you took those sweatpants from Walmart. I know, Heather. That was another thing that was like truly unbelievable. But listen, guys, I'm gonna get off of here. I will see you guys. Exactly, Guardians. I will see you guys tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for the live about Sean. I might come during the day. We're not gonna. You know, if it's pop up. But other than that, I will definitely see you guys tomorrow night, 8 Eastern. Guys, thank you everybody for coming in. Thanks to my mods. Thank you people that sent me information today. I mean, again, you know, I am so appreciative of people that send me screenshots and send me audio bits here and there. You know, I couldn't do this stuff. You know, so many people.
The Ukrainians justified in hitting the Kremlin, and there has been some discussion of maybe they could put a missile or two in the Kremlin. And I would go back and point out that earlier in the war, there was a Ukrainian long-range drone that did actually explode over the Kremlin. Rather spectacular video of that, and it was actually it exploded. It looked like it exploded hitting a roof or near a roof. It wasn't quite clear, but it definitely made a big impression that the Ukrainians had drones that could reach Moscow. And Moscow quickly moved a lot of air defense assets around Moscow because they suddenly realized that Moscow was vulnerable to drone attack. And so, you know, it's not unprecedented that there are some events hit something there. It's not quite clear what the Russian reaction would be. And I just want to say statistically, if you think the Tomahawk missile is going to, you know, take out Putin or something like that, there's Murphy's of targeting, which is what something when it hits. I can't explain, but we've done these strikes a lot. We did them a lot in the Middle East, you know, Iraq and elsewhere, and it never failed that Saddam Hussein had always just left the building, you know, right before the missile hit. And so you can't count on that if that's what you're thinking.
War. The Russians have seemingly provoked NATO countries several times in recent weeks. You and I have discussed it almost every night. We've seen examples in Estonia, Romania, Poland, to name a few. Why is it an important discussion moving forward?
It's become a huge discussion, particularly in Europe, not unique to Europe, but a huge discussion. It is a level of warfare just below a direct military action. All right. It's all sorts of things. For example, hiring a third party to burn down stores in the Baltic states, which is what Russia did. They targeted, for example, because Sweden joined NATO. And that's their way of striking back. Dragging an anchor going out through the Baltic from St. Petersburg and cutting off cables or potentially piercing an underwater gas line. You know, these are they're not nuisance attacks per se. They're going after critical infrastructure. And then you see other things like flying MiG-31s over Estonian airspace, direct violation of the sovereignty of Estonia. You see flying drones, which, you know, nobody can directly say with 100% certainty that the drones that were flying, you know, for example, near Copenhagen Airport that disrupted air traffic there were Russian, but they're believed to be Russian. And there is reports that a Russian ship had turned off all of its transponders, emitters, identifying itself, and was sitting off the coast of Denmark in or around the time when these drones were doing what they were doing. So, you know, these are the types of things we've seen. And then you take it up a couple notches. They've done assassinations in Europe. Spain, most recently, against a Russian defector that was living, well, supposed to be living incognito in Spain. Obviously not incognito enough. And they have done other things like that. And then we've seen, you know, there's been a lot of gray area stuff where they've attacked other places with arson or disrupting rail lines or all these sorts of things at the level of an active war. But they sound a lot like what we saw in Europe in World War II with the resistance forces or with the OSS or the Special Operations Executive with Britain, where they would go in and, you know, hit train lines and all sorts of stuff like that. Kind of the hybrid warfare spectrum, sometimes called gray area activities, because it is that gray area. It's not clearly an active war. It's not a normative terrorist strike, but obviously causing damage, disruption, destruction.
So, you know, the question on everybody's mind, and the question that I get from viewers most often is, where do ceasefire talks stand, Hal? Is there any clarity on if there are even substantive ceasefire talks going on?
You know, it's interesting. You know, it's often talked about, you know, four-dimensional chess with what's happening over there. You know, we're saying, okay, again, we'll send Tomahawk missiles. You know, give Tomahawk missiles potentially to Ukraine. Ukraine can use those. Puts immense pressure on Putin. They're hitting the refineries, causing huge problems with gas lines around there. And all of this is like, okay, so we're doing this instead of ceasefire talks. Well, everything plays at the same time. So it's clear that Putin was not interested in ceasefire talks. It's also clear that Putin was, you know, what was it, putting on or whatever, playing President Trump, or at least President Trump certainly feels that he was playing him, that, you know, Putin got vetted or I don't know, vetted, but he got, you know, basically feted would be the right term. I'm sorry. On the red carpet in Alaska, you know, here he is on the global stage being met by the President of the United States, rides in the presidential limousine to the meeting, all this stuff, and didn't reciprocate at all. In fact, every time he has a talk with President Trump, he turns around and does a massive drone and missile strike on Ukraine. And it's clear that President Trump has just had enough. So he's using all of this. Now, does this rule out a ceasefire negotiation? Well, Well, what it does is it puts it vastly ramps up the pressure on Putin to, if he's going to come to the negotiating table, he's going to come with a very different mindset than what he has now. Honestly, with hubris and some of the thinking that Russian leaders are kind of notorious for, I think they're going to have to see a lot more damage and destruction before that happens. But there's a lot of discussion right now. This is a big shift. In the last week or two, official Russian state media have been asking Putin if there's a possibility of what would be called regime change in Moscow. I just find the fact that a Russian state journalist, and keep in mind, that is not a risk-free proposition to ask Putin that publicly, or even asking about, what's going on with the economy is collapsing, could this turn into something like they saw in 91 or whatever. The fact that there's any discussion like that with Putin in a public fashion indicates just how bad things are in Moscow, which then Putin has to look at for negotiation. Of course, the other problem is, if the war ends, he may not be in permission for that either. So he doesn't have a lot of, hence the term Putin's predicament. He doesn't have a lot of great options in front of him.
As always on these Saturdays, we appreciate you being generous with your time. Hal gives us so much context and insight into stories from across the globe.